This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 199, about Daredevil, season 3, episode 13, A New Napkin. Welcome back, fellow Defenders. This is our 199th episode of Defenders TV Podcast, where we're talking about Daredevil 313, A New Napkin, the season finale of Daredevil Season 3. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
I'm your other host, Chris.
And I am your third and final host, John.
Welcome back, fellow Defenders, to our 199th episode. To follow up on one of the questions that we had outstanding earlier on in the season, the way we're going to do our 200th episode is we're going to talk about this episode of Daredevil, episode 13 of season 3, the finale. We're going to talk about all of our thoughts, all of our usual top 5 case notes about this episode, and we're going to leave your feedback till our 200th episode, where we'll talk about a full recap of the season of Daredevil and your thoughts and your feedback, because we got loads of full season long feedback, not just about this episode, loads of thoughts about everything that happened throughout the season overall. So I want to give it the respect it deserves and a good discussion about that season. So I think it'll work to have that as our 200th episode. We also think it would have felt a little bit weird having our 200th episode of the podcast about the Defenders TV shows being about comic books. So we'll be putting out our comic book podcast about Doctor Strange issue 8 later on in the week as a separate podcast to the 200th episode. Loads of good stuff to keep you going.
Yes, here's to 200 more.
Yes, here's to 200 more. Yes, absolutely. Great first 199 episodes. Let's hope we survive to 200.
Mm-hmm. There's only one way to get there, and that's to discuss all the details about this episode. Remember, fellow Defenders, as we're on the end of a season, always good to let you know, make sure you subscribe to the podcast over at defenderstvpodcast.com to get all of our upcoming episodes. We will still be covering the upcoming Defenders series, Punisher and Jessica Jones season 2 and 3 respectively, which will be coming out in 2019. We will continue to cover our comic book podcast stuff over on this feed on Defenders TV Podcast as well. So keep subscribed to get all of the stuff that we're doing. You can also join us over on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV Podcast to give us ideas for upcoming episodes or to chat with us about anything that we've covered so far.
Yes, but Derek, with that, what are some of the episode details for Daredevil Episode 13, A New Napkin, please?
Well, as you mentioned, the episode is called A New Napkin. I had to throw this out to Chris because I couldn't see where this was in the episode. It's a very important moment right at the end of the episode. A New Napkin is effectively the new normal that's set at the end of this episode, with the possible reconnection of Paige, Murdoch, and Nelson, or whatever order you want to put those names in. The episode was directed by Sam Miller, a new director in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the TV universe. He's an English director, best known for his work on the BBC TV dramas like This Life and Luther, which he got an Emmy nomination for as well.
Excellent stuff. This Life, amazing show with Egg, also known as Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead.
I think I'm the only person in the UK and Ireland to ever pronounce the name of that show as Luther, because I think most people pronounce it as Luther.
Which is something that you get dead skin off in the bath with.
That's a loofah.
Yeah.
Yes, but never say that to Idris Elba, who stars in that show.
I much prefer his work in the MCU.
But enough talk about British TV. This episode was written by the showrunner, Eric Olson. Always a good sign, as we say. If you have your showrunner writing your final episode, he is taking ownership for this show. This is the place where he wanted to end the series of Daredevil. Really good job, I think, on this final episode.
Yeah, and we do know as of recording that he has pitched season 4 of Daredevil to Netflix, as he said in his tweet, fingers crossed. So I have some toes, I have some fingers. I'm pretty sure I can loan some of the fellow Defenders' fingers and toes out there too.
Yes, we're touching wood. We are rubbing our rabbit's feet. You name it. We've got knees crossed, arms stretched, rah, rah, rah. And good luck, Aramas, for a season 4 of Daredevil, for sure.
But let's get into the details of what they gave us with this final episode of Daredevil Season 3. John, do you want to give us the synopsis for this episode?
Sure. With Foggy Nelson's plan in general disarray, Matt Murdock returns to his own plan and intends to kill Wilson Fisk. He kidnaps and interrogates Felix Manning, learning vital intel to use against Fisk, Vanessa, and Special Agent Poindexter. Elsewhere, Foggy still believes in the rule of law, and as he is called into the FBI office in New York to represent Agent Ray Nadim's wife Seema, he discovers a dying declaration detailing all of Fisk's crimes. Meanwhile, as Fisk and Vanessa get married at the presidential hotel, their reception is rudely interrupted by Ray Nadim from beyond the grave and the arrival of a seriously weaponized Daredevil. As Dex attacks, Matt joins the fight, overpowering Wilson Fisk, but not before Poindexter is left paralyzed. In the bloody aftermath, Fisk is sent back to prison, Dexter undergoes experimental spinal surgery, and Foggy suggests that he, Matt, and Karen begin to work together again, as Nelson, Murdoch, and Page attorneys at law. Or is that Page, Nelson, and Murdoch avocados at law? Or is that Murdoch, Page, and Nelson atonados at law?
Or is it just guacamole?
It's all holy moly guacamole. Yes, that'd be great. Team up. We can see season 4 now coming into Eric Olsen's pitch here. The three of them, the three amigos returned, ready for action with a really cheesed off Poindexter ready to get back into the fray. There we go. Season 4 written. Bosh. Done.
Yep.
Off you go, Netflix. Put the money behind it.
Yep, no point to do your 200th episode now, John. Thanks. But let's get back into this episode of season 3 of Daredevil, the final episode for this season. Get into our usual thoughts about our top 5 case notes. Case note number 1, the kidnap of Felix Manning. We knew Felix would play a part in this series. One of the things I thought was really interesting in here with Felix Manning is that he's mentioned quite a few times that he's not a man for breaking. No matter what happens to him, Wilson Fisk will do whatever worse than anybody else can do. We heard it when he was talking to Karen Page earlier on in the season. He's been that kind of evil, gruesome guy in the background. Well, Daredevil kidnaps him, beats him a couple of times, and gets every piece of information out of him really quickly. It's kind of a little bit of irony in there that he's been trusted with so much information and Wilson Fisk never thought he'd give it up. But a couple of punches from Daredevil, get anything out of him.
Well, and him dropping him off the roof, and like you can hear the leg joints like snap out. So, I mean, he's going to have a dodgy hip for the rest of his life now in prison.
Yep.
So he won't be able to really run away from the shivving that he's probably going to get in prison.
Pretty quick.
But yeah, no, I mean, it was kind of sweet justice, really, wasn't it? Because he ultimately has had to give up some of the juicier elements of Wilson Fisk's secretive life. And in particular, the one that was making me kind of rub my hands with glee was the fact that, yes, we all knew that Matt Murdock was going to give Poindexter some kind of message in some way or another, just to let him know that his dear North Star, Wilson Fisk, had ordered the death of his dearest North Star, Julie. And I thought that was just nice. That was kind of like, yes, that deserved to happen. And I'm really glad it did. And I'm really glad that it happened at the dangling feet of Felix Manning.
Yes, absolutely. Anybody getting Batman Dark Knight Rises vibes or Dark Knight vibes or Batman Begins vibes there with the body of Felix dangling off the edge? Definitely a touch taken there from Batman. I really enjoyed the fact that even though Felix Manning is giving up all this information, he's kind of calling out all the people that have been murdered and all the information he has. Matt doesn't reel him back up like Batman would. He leaves him dangling to tell him the information before he will reel him back up. I do like that moment. And I don't think he even does at the end. I think he still leaves him hanging off the edge. You see Brett Mahoney arriving a little bit later on with the paramedics putting him on the stretcher, and Brett Mahoney standing over him going, "How did you end off dangling there?" And he's like, "I tripped." I told you, I tripped.
Yeah.
Great moment.
For a split second, and I know that's exactly what they wanted, I thought Matt had dropped him over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was very well done, because I was like, based on Matt, what's going through, oh my God, he's going to kill him. That would be amazing. Or severely maim him at least.
Yeah.
Like drop him over the edge, he breaks all his bones, he's lying kind of crippled on the next roof.
Like, this is the opening scene of the episode, and we just heard at the end of the last episode that Matt is going out to kill his rivals now. You know, if you're not willing to help him out, he's going to kill you. It was exactly the way they set it up. So yeah, totally get what you mean, Chris.
Yeah. And then I really enjoyed Matt's actual stance while Felix was giving him the information. Batman usually stands there very stoic with his cape fluttering behind him.
Yeah.
You see Matt just like feet like dangling off the edge, just kind of like, he was just like, yeah, I'm in for a while, you know, just gonna sit down. He pulls out his picnic basket, kind of cup of tea, hot whiskey.
Yeah.
It was a fun interaction, and I really enjoyed it. I did really like the scene, literally following that, where we see Brett there, Mahoney. He's fine with everything that's happening, because what we do see is Foggy arrives and he believes someone is going to kill Fisk, and Mahoney's like, yeah, fine with me.
Let me get my popcorn out to watch is kind of the response from Brad, isn't it? Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because we do get that in a following scene as well from Foggy talking to Karen, where he's very much the one that's on the defense here to make sure that Matt doesn't cross that line. We hear him say that whole thing to Karen when she's going, you know, everybody is allowed a second chance. Well, except for Fisk is what Karen's saying. He's going, no, everybody, because if Matt crosses that line, then he is going to become the bad guy. He's going to be exactly the same as everybody else. And Karen's kind of going, yeah, but what if he accidentally killed him? And, you know, Foggy goes, no, plotting to kill him is the exact opposite of accidentally killing him. So we all know that this can't be in self-defense. We all know he's out there to kill him.
Absolutely. I do really like as well that Mahoney says, you know, he kind of says, okay, I'll put extra cops on to protect, but they're kind of like fourth level cops, in the sense that it's either new recruits who are kind of green behind the ears, or they're about to retire and are not going to put themselves in harm's way because they've got their pension to look forward to. So I really like that sort of Brett Mahoney really grudgingly says, okay, I hear you, I'm going to do something about it, but it's going to be the weakest possible doing something about it that I will do. So that was really good.
Although after watching many American movies, if I was a cop on the edge of retirement, would I go anywhere near Fisk's building? Because that's usually when you get killed, isn't it? Just before retirement. Like Lethal Weapon and stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Although, yeah, he always survived.
He always survived,
despite Riggs.
Exactly. Let's get on to case note number 2, guys. The return of all the unresolved loose ends from the season comes back to really bite Fisk on the ass this time, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Again, it's a bit like with Felix Manning giving up the whole secret about Julie and her murder. I really enjoyed that Ray Nadeem gets his moment to bring about sweet justice against Tammy Hatley in relation to the whole Agent Wynn murder, but importantly with regards to Wilson Fisk and what he did to curtail the FBI, but also to force him into effectively working for him, along with other people as well. I thought that was really good. I mean, we kind of wondered whether him playing for time outside of his home just before he was killed by Poindexter, whether he was filming that, whether there was some kind of outdoor security camera pointed on it so that at least he would get Poindexter. But here we get this dying declaration from Ray Nadeem. It comes with that special aspect to it, which is because he knows he's going to die, that his declaration, his statement of everything that's happened is given equal status to someone who's alive, because he has less incentive to lie. It is admissible in court. Again, for me, it felt like sweet justice, and it felt like, you know, some of these aspects that Wilson Fisk thought were impregnable just got chipped away to the point where then it really did start to crumble. So I really enjoyed this moment.
Well, first of all, I really enjoyed Seema. Like the ingenuity they showed on a character who, let's be somewhat honest, she's been very tertiary to a lot of this, which is fine, but that's the need of that character to date. And then her treatment of Ray while they were in Mahoney or Mother Mahoney's kind of apartment, she was very mean to Ray, who, when he tried to explain, she's like, I'm never going to forgive you, blah, 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 etc. Then seeing her character arc taken to that next level, because let's be honest, quite easily, it could have been a video message sent to Foggy's phone. Like that, it could have been just that quick. But what we do get to see is her character slightly redeemed, in that if you were not happy with the way she treated Ray in the final scene where they were together, this redeems the arc. And it also shows that she's out to protect her child while also ensuring that they take down the guys who killed her husband.
Yeah. I think the character herself, I don't think there's been a huge amount of her in the season, as you say, Chris. It's been a very small, very limited amount. And I think this is more about Ray again. It's just giving Ray that final moment from beyond the grave to protect his child and his wife and give them an out and some helping hand here, you know. It's a great moment for her, definitely. I totally agree with you. But I think it more just helps to redeem Ray and what he put her through. Like we've seen all season, all she was saying to him was, just tell me when you're in danger. I need to know that. We need to have that trust. And that was their final moment together, was that argument where she said to him, I can't trust you because you're still not telling me when you're in danger and you've got a bullet hole in you. You know, you're working for Fisk and you're not telling me that you're in danger. So this moment is just to redeem him and show that he's revealing everything about himself to her after he's passed.
Yeah, no, I can kind of get that too, but it was a good scene. I think that's probably the best. Seeing the video given to Foggy being able to then take this back to Karen and explain why it's admissible in court, explain why it's so important. Because I too thought Fisk can easily get around this, and it was only when he explains it, which I have to say I really enjoyed. Thinking back on a lot of this, they still had quite a legal element. I know I remember saying in the lead up to this, I really hoped they had some courtroom scenes. Foggy filled in a lot of those courtroom scenes, being lawyer by day, lawyer by night.
Yeah.
Just a lawyer then.
Yeah, pretty much. But an overworked, underpaid lawyer.
Yes,
yeah. So no, I really enjoyed this. It does lead us to our kind of second point, which is the second loose end. Poor old Julie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this tracking down of Julie in the freezer was pretty gruesome. I must say, like, when he kind of pulls back the plastic wrap to reveal her, it was like, oh, okay. And then even morbidly, when he effectively brings her to the presidential hotel, I was like, okay, Crazy Dex, like, time to take the medication. It was just a little bit spooky, I thought. Also because, you know, she was kind of fairly, like, bolt upright and wide eye going like, what kind of thing in the passenger seat. I thought there was a slight hilarity to it. But maybe that's just me.
Well, there's a little bit of Weekend at Bernie's to it, definitely. Like, I could totally understand why he wanted to bring the body and kind of drop it at the feet of Kingpin and go, look what you did to Julie. You know, that's more the scene I was expecting. And it makes more sense if she's sitting up to put her into the seat of the car. You know, that's logical transportation of a body. You know, it makes a lot of sense. But the fact that he leaves her in the car after driving into the wedding, you know, that does seem a little bit odd. And he is completely broken at this stage.
Yeah.
Just want to mention where they find her body in the fridge or in the freezer, I guess. The other two bodies that are in there, those are the guys that shot her. Those are the guys that were painting up the walls and shot her and killed her. So Felix has also disposed of their bodies. Now, a lot of people have been quite confused because one of the guys has a goatee that could have been Melvin Potter, but it's not. It's definitely the two guys that shot and killed Julie and were going to kill Dex. They've outlived their usefulness and have been killed and thrown in there as well. So pretty brutal.
I just loved the frozen rigor mortis snapping that had to take place for Dex to actually put her in the car. Because you're just kind of having to go, well, she wasn't sitting like she was in a car seat.
Not exactly.
So he would have had to literally go, oh no, oh, there goes your kneecap. Oh, there's your other kneecap. Oh, there you go. Let's move your arm. To get her arm through the car's seatbelt, I'm just like, he destroyed her.
Did he put her in a seatbelt as well?
Yeah.
That's even more hilarious.
On top of that, she's slowly thawing out.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest, New York, unless it's winter, cold winter, you're talking there's thawing happening.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, oh no, Dex, like at least put her somewhere else. Like he drives her, he puts her in the boot, he picks her up and puts her into the catering.
It is kind of like the horror version of Driving Miss Daisy, where it's kind of like, you know, is she going to sort of reanimate here or just like melt like a popsicle? I must say, I did kind of think this was an interesting choice that you'd put her in the seat of the car, but I suppose it ultimately shows how far gone this guy is. Like, he's totally lost it. He is feeling a total sense of betrayal. But there were moments where, you know, that sort of, that dark humor of mine, just took over a little. But in fairness, I was even surprised that they kind of showed sort of her body being sort of opened up, actually. Yeah. I mean, I know this generally is, 18 plus or R-rated or whatever, from the Netflix classification of it. Yeah, I was kind of surprised even at that, to be honest, that they did show that. So, I mean, for Jews, you know, someone who does like horror, this felt slightly horror-esque to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Personally, what I was hoping, because I understand exactly why they did it. They did it to show the deterioration of Dex, to show that he's talking to a corpse as if she was real. What I was hoping for was a split-second scene where she responds to him looking as she did before, to show that he's almost gone so far that he's hallucinating that she's still alive, that she's responding to him. Very much Psycho-esque, right?
Right.
So the mother was never talking in Psycho, but, spoilers, by the way, I guess. I'm sorry.
I think that's all right.
Yeah. But no, essentially I was expecting that would have nailed it slightly a bit further. That would have put the kind of, the element down, just to show the psychoses. As it was good. But I'm kind of more with John. For me, it was more giggle inducing.
Oh, right.
Than show, like, we all have dark humor. Myself and John a bit more than Derek.
I didn't say that there, Chris, to be completely honest. But no, I'd have to say I did really get the scene. It really felt like Dex finds this body of the woman that he thinks has thrown him away. And it wasn't that. She was killed. She was murdered by the guy he's been working for. He finds his body, doesn't know what to do at all. He has no idea. He gets that guttural primal scream, sticks her in the car and runs straight off to the hotel. What I loved is the reaction of his former FBI compatriot who opens the window he sees Dex in the car dressed in the Daredevil gear with this frozen body in the other seat, and he is just terrified. He goes, what is going to happen here? You know, this is like, hold on a second, this is not going to go well for any of us here, you know? He instantly clocks that something really bad's going to happen. This is going to be like a terrorist attack on a New York hotel on the wedding of the Fisks, you know? He instantly clocks there's something bad going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was an interesting choice with Julie in the passenger seat. I think, I hadn't really thought about it, but definitely, as you say, Chris, if Julie had kind of turned around and spoken to him and you'd got that sense of psychosis and mental breakdown, okay, you kind of know that anyway.
Yeah.
But certainly when he opens up the fridge, when he's investigating, and I think even just the fact that Daredevil is there on the roof listening in just to make sure that, you know, he finds her. And I think he calls him up as well.
The minute he hears the primal scream from Dex, then he makes the phone call to him to tell him that it's Fisk and tell him where to go, kind of thing. It's like he's guiding him through this really brutal act.
Yeah, and that was, I thought that was really meaningful in the moment. And then I suppose it just took me out of it when she was riding in the passenger seat. But still, I get what it was trying to do for sure. But yeah, then the fits and giggles kind of kicked in a bit for me. But I still think it was a good choice. And I think if they'd just done that whole thing where she looks and speaks to him, I think that would have been quite interesting.
And I just think that would have been a little bit tropey. But let's get on to this destination. The destination was the wedding of Wilson and Vanessa Fisk. As we know as comic book fans, Vanessa Fisk has kind of always been the character Vanessa Fisk. She was introduced as Vanessa and then became Vanessa Fisk. So we always knew we were going to have the wedding. But kind of cool to have it in this final episode in the way that it happens. I love that Fisk is using this as the opportunity to straighten the bonds with the underworld, the gangs that he has around. I love that he's using it to kind of get as Felix describes it to get his position back in Hell's Kitchen, tell everybody how badly he's been treated, and have a big love story for them all to kind of cling on to. Really interesting. Really like that moment with Rosalie Carbone. Chris, you actually mentioned a couple of episodes ago, Rosalie Carbone is the character that we saw at the end of Luke Cage season 2, and we didn't recognize her. We said we were going to look out for her, and 13 episodes later, we completely forgot that she was there. But she is the character that's the head of the Italian gang from Luke Cage season 2. But we hear her having that comment with Wilson Fisk about how funny it is that she's been sitting beside the person that tried to arrest her previously, because it's his wedding, and she kind of likes that idea and will give him an extra bump in payment next time she talks to him, which I think is quite fun, seeing these underworld characters kind of have that interaction.
I want to bring up one point before we kind of move on, because this wasn't actually in our case notes. So we see Wilson getting dressed for the wedding. See, his nervousness. He does obviously have an hallucination of seeing himself with the hammer, and then he has this beautiful interaction, and I actually mean this beautiful interaction with Vanessa, explaining how he believes he doesn't deserve her, that he's just using her to, similar to the art, putting her on a pedestal. And she has, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she kind of says, no, I'm there to complement your cracks. So we are both broken pieces, but our broken pieces fit together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My God, these are some of the best vows in the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know this is two bad people talking to each other, but it's two bad people who are deeply, madly in love, who know they are broken, who fully accept each other for those broken pieces. To the point where I was like, that's really well written. Mm-hmm. It kind of did make me go, wow, that's a beautiful way to describe marriage or partnership or whatever, even if you're not married and you're just with your significant other for life. It's a beautiful understanding and metaphor for why that is that. Yeah,
and it's such a tough thing, isn't it? Because remember, they brought back Vanessa after 11 episodes of the show. We hadn't seen Vanessa. She arrives back and she's on the outs with Fisk until the end of that episode. So only at the end of last episode you realise that she actually just wanted to get even closer to Wilson Fisk. And then at the beginning of this episode, you see the strengthening of their relationship. It's really only about 2 scenes this entire season that you see both of them are on the same page in their love for each other. And it was sold so well. You're absolutely right, Chris. I think their whole relationship this season hung on that scene for her to say to Wilson Fisk, I believe the same thing that you do as well.
Yeah.
You needed that confirmation. It was done so well that it actually was sold really well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really great moment, but certainly one that was rudely interrupted, the whole sense of occasion, and obviously with their vows, with her dressing him, or at least picking out the flower in the wardrobe at that moment, as well, rudely interrupted by 2 party poopers, really. A dead Ray Nadeem via social media, as Karen is sharing the video that he has sent to his wife to social media, so it's going viral. So everyone, all the guests at the party are receiving this the shocking revelation of this last testimony and statement of the dying declaration of Ray Nadeem.
And I do think this makes sense. We see this on a lot of TV shows, this whole idea of a video going viral, a video of something going viral and it's suddenly impacting everybody in a room. I think in this case, for once, it actually makes sense because, well, they're at the wedding of Wilson Fisk and somebody is accusing him. The person who has been killed or the person who was in court accusing him of doing all of this stuff. Well, the video has been released online of that guy whose wedding you're at. All your mates are going to send that video to you immediately. They're going to go, get out of there. You know, this has now been confirmed kind of thing. It just worked really well that it may not have gone viral across New York, but every single person in that particular location is going to get it from somebody outside of the wedding going, you need to see this immediately. You know, I just thought it worked quite well for once.
Yeah, definitely.
I loved it. I'm not going to, it was perfect for me. We always see it in the TV shows.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh my God. And it's like plastered on billboards. Suddenly it's projected. And you're like, you can't cast like that. That's not how technology works. But then actually seeing it like this, I was like, no, I'm happy with how they showed this.
You can see it. It's after the speeches. It's after the wedding itself. The music started. Everybody's kind of taking out their phones, seeing what happened that day. You know, you can kind of see it as a realistic moment, you know, for everybody that's at the party.
Yeah. But then we do get our second gatecrasher of the wedding, which I was so sure that was where Vanessa was about to drop her clogs. Because they were both in white, they were kind of slow dancing to get together, and I was just expecting a baton to the back. That was just like, I was like, they're setting this up. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And she's going to die in Wilson's arms. But no, we get a beautiful speech from Dex.
Okay, yeah. We do definitely get that moment from Dex. I thought he was going to sing a song up on stage there when he started out with his microphone in hand. But I think you're right though, Chris. Like it's a few words before he throws the microphone, but the microphone was aimed at Vanessa, not at Wilson. It is only by the amazing reflexes of Matt Murdock that microphone doesn't kill Vanessa, but it is totally aimed at her. I'm glad that if she had died, she would have died on screen directly after that speech from Dex, because you're right, it was really necessary. And it is a great moment saying, Julie and I have a wedding present for you. You know, that moment, a great moment. If she was to die there, it would have worked really well.
Yeah, it was really good. Just the whole breakup from Dex, you know, it's that sense of betrayal that he's had, talking of the spirit of Julie in the sense that they have this present, this gift for them, was really good. And yeah, I mean, all the way through the start of this big kind of showdown, really, between, Bullseye, Wilson Fisk, and then Matt Murdock, at all times, I was completely convinced that Vanessa was going to get a spoon through the heart.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever it may be, a lapel through the forehead or something. I mean, she just felt so vulnerable. And I thought that was what was really good about this fight. And certainly with Wilson Fisk was just, you sensed the vulnerability of Vanessa, but you also sensed in that the vulnerability of Wilson Fisk. And I think that was played really well by these two actors. I thought it was really well done. And the menace of Bullseye here was amazing. And again, it comes to redeem Matt Murdock, really, because he ultimately is trying to prevent the death of Vanessa and also Wilson Fisk, at least at the hands of Poindexter. You know, he's looking to potentially kill him until the deal is made that saves Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. But anyway, I suppose that's more with our other point, but there are some great moments here on the dance floor by Bullseye with flying bits of cutlery. Again, he has that. It actually has the Daredevil motion of kind of almost like he's bowing as he flings two knives at some of the FBI agents, just down to a T. Wilson Bethel, just has the style and look of almost Daredevil doing it, actually. Which
got the costume, I guess.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it's so good. It's so stylistic and stylish. I just thought it was really well done.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to give a lot of props to Matt Murdock's strategy here in using Dex. It's quite interesting. Loads of people have told him that he will never get back up to that penthouse. He'll never get anywhere near the wedding. The wedding's on at this moment as well. We've got FBI agents everywhere, all in the pockets of Fisk. What a great idea. It's almost like American football. He's running the blocker, as we'd call it, where he sent Dex in ahead of him to take out everybody in the way. So he just has an easy path all the way up to the penthouse. What a great idea. You see him walking in and you hear guys rolling on the floor going, Daredevil's gone past me already. And you see Matt Murdock walking over the bodies as he goes, you know. What a great way to use the strengths of your opponent against them, almost, you know. He's the one that stopped everything. So he used Dex against himself, basically. Cool idea.
I love this scene just altogether, seeing when that microphone is flung and then Daredevil being able to knock it out of the air. Seeing Daredevil, we obviously see it in a lot more detail later on in the fight, which we'll get to, but seeing him fight both Dex and the FBI while also trying to get at Fisk was just fantastic. I really, really enjoyed this. Although I will say one thing for Matt, which is, when do you ever think that small wedding tables in a hotel will stop bullets? Because he pulls it down and just gets shot and you just see two bullet holes pop out. And I'm like, no. Come on.
But did you think that was really cool, Chris? Because the amount of times that happens in TV shows and movies where they take a plyboard table and put it in front of them and they don't get killed. You know, it is showing you that won't work. It feels like he's actually using it to obscure someone's view and moving to the other side of the table because he knows the bullets are going to go through the left side. You know, it's like Daredevil's using it slightly differently than they use it in, I don't know, 21 Jump Street or some action movie. You know, he's using it differently. He's not using it to make sure that the bullets get embedded in the table. He's using it to distract them while he moves. You know what I mean?
It was cool, but it also, come on, Matt.
I know what you mean, Chris, but I do think it's just a little jibe at other people that would use a table to block bullets as well. But yeah, you're right. Maybe Matt was trying to do that as well. Let's get on to case note number 4. I know we're dying to talk about the 3-way battle that we see. So we've called case note number 4 the incarceration of Wilson Fisk, because that's what it's all leading to. We were right. Really important to point out. We did get this one right. We knew that it wouldn't end off with Matt killing Wilson Fisk, but it does have a wonderful battle in this scene, as we have Devil versus Daredevil versus Kingpin all around the room. It's so interesting watching this fight. Everybody is going full bore against each other. And as you say, Kingpin is really trying to protect Vanessa. And how did we miss it, guys? We've been watching these shows for 39 episodes. How did we miss the reason why Kingpin has a whole armory full of suits all in white? Well, these are all the ones that were made for him because they're bulletproof. These are all the suits that he got, his version of the Daredevil suits. That's why he's able to throw one around the shoulders of Vanessa so she doesn't get hurt by the flying stuff that's being thrown at her by Devil. We didn't notice it. How do we miss that earlier on in the season?
Well, I thought what was really good about that scene was as we were watching it, we were like, why is he taking time to put his jacket around her shoulders? It was like,
she's not going to be
this
told.
is being overly polite at the wrong time, Wilson. Just get her out of the room. And then it was like, they are Melvin Potter tailored suits. So he's actually protecting her. And of course, it all made sense. So I thought that was really, really nice. You know, that realization that, of course, he gets his suits made by Melvin Potter. So yeah, really nice touch there. With him putting his suit jacket around her. And then it was like, Vanessa, now leave. Vanessa, leave. Leave Vanessa, get out of there. I mean, I would be out of there like, no offense, Derek, but I mean, if I was your Vanessa to your Wilson Fisk, I would be hop, skip, and jump up those stairs and out to another helicopter waiting to take me to Italy. So, but, you know, I was like, why is she stood on the stairway?
I know, and I do have it written in the notes exactly like that in capital letters. I've got, why doesn't she move? But there is an obvious reason.
Yes.
Wilson Fisk is the one that's there to protect Vanessa, and she feels exactly the same love for him and doesn't want to go. And if he dies, she'll have left and be saved. She doesn't want to be that woman.
Exactly. And I think that really lends into even more this vulnerability that I felt for Vanessa, because, okay, you know, Dex is still lying around somewhere, and you know, he was in amongst the fight, and you're just expecting something to fly at her. And even after Wilson Fisk had done that brutal body slam into the corner, or onto the edge of the wall of Poindexter's back, and it was just like, yikes. I was still half expecting, while she stood there, that this fork would suddenly fly into the side of her head,
right? Just like, I didn't, I was expecting, while Matt and Kingpin were decking it out, just literally we would see Dex like crippled and then do that flick of the wrist, and it would like a knife would bounce off, or one of the chandelier, the light fixture, the glass that he had was beside Dex, and he would just kind of grab it with his fingers, put it between two little fingers, and then flick, and that would be the death of her. Yeah,
it would have been that nod to the Daredevil movie, where with the flick of the paperclip to kill the nurse, wasn't it? I think.
It was a fly with a paperclip, and a peanut killed the old woman beside him.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And I think they did it for that reason. I think they avoided doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
You know, if they had done it, that would have been the big trope that she died in the background. And what a cool idea that this is how the show ends, is a final offer from Daredevil to Fisk. If he keeps his nose clean in prison, and goes there, doesn't step out of place, Vanessa will be safe. Vanessa will not be treated as a murderer. She will not have the death of Ray Nadeem on her hands, and she will be safe. This is their final moment with Daredevil. This is where we get our Matt Murdock back, believing, now that he's seen the love between these two, that Fisk can actually go ahead and make a promise to Matt and not break it. It's a nice moment, and it's a really nice ending to this arc between the two of them. It doesn't have to end in death. It can also end in this pact between all of them.
Yeah, I think as well, the moment where the rabbit in the snowstorm gets covered in Fisk's blood, where, you know, it gets a nice Jackson Pollock swish of red paint over it, I suppose. That was pretty cool, I thought. And seeing Vanessa sort of watch that, and then having this deal played out in front of this picture that has moved in some way, either as the actual picture or as the blank cell wall in Riker's prison, or as the blank bedroom wall as Fisk's childhood memory. I think that was really quite cool as well, to have this picture that has come along with Wilson Fisk be there at the end as he's on his knees, effectively capitulating to what Daredevil wants, and having as well, having that snowstorm whiteness, that thing that keeps him calm, covered in angry red of his own blood. Which I thought, yeah. So, I mean, for me, that was like really very cool indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what a great ending, I think, to that story between them. We have Officer Mahoney coming in, Matt not leaving the room. Interestingly, Matt going upstairs to kind of present the situation to Mahoney, making sure he steps far enough away that he doesn't get arrested. And we have the other officers coming in and taking Dex's mask off, with Mahoney saying, "That's not Daredevil. Daredevil's the guy up there in the black suit." So we have that confirmation now. He's probably never getting back into that red suit. Can I just have a little aside here, guys? I know Daredevil in the comics has the red suit, and I know they tried really hard in season 2 and the end of season 1 to put him in this red armored costume. Do you think we're ever going to see him back in that suit? Because one of the things people have loved about this show is the dynamism that you have in those, 12-minute long takes of Matt in standard street clothing. If they get him back in that suit, we're never going to get another dynamic fight from Daredevil again, are we? It feels like you have Dex being able to use that suit because all he's doing is moving his hands, throwing stuff. He doesn't feel like he has to have the motion that Matt Murdock has to have to keep the show going the way it goes.
So I agree and disagree at the same time. What I actually think we'll get is the Man in Black, but created by Melvin Potter. Because if Melvin Potter can make stab-proof, bulletproof suit jackets, he can probably make something quite similar for the Man in Black.
It's going to have to be lightweight, though.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that suit again, right?
No.
He needs to be wearing the classical, absolutely skin-tight, thigh-showing, six-pack showing lycra. He needs to represent the Marvel Ned Flanders on a ski slope here.
Feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Exactly,
nothing
Chris.
At all.
Exactly. That will put off any of his adversaries for that split second, to give him that advantage of time and speed.
Stupid, sexy Daredevil.
Yeah, exactly. and because I think the opening credits it feels to me that's that Daredevil in the opening credits as the gloopy paint kind of goes down it. That it's giving the skin tight lycra. You can see all the sinew and what have you underneath the. Okay, I think about the opening credits way too much, but maybe they could go that route just for one. It'd be quite interesting.
You can tell John never presses the skip intro button on Netflix. I think we should skip on to the next point, though. Case note number 5, is this the end, is what I have here. We have the tie-up of pretty much every storyline that's gone on this season. No real cliffhangers. There's a few, but we'll talk about them in the point. There's no real cliffhangers here. We get so many moments tied up in this final moment. We have, Matt kind of getting pretty relaxed as he goes back to Sister Maggie and has that discussion with her about, an incident he had as a child when he was hating God and earth and the church and everything. And Father Lantham says to him, well, it's kind of like a tapestry. What God does with the world is like a tapestry. You don't see the front of it. You only see the back. You only see the strings and a little bit of color on this side. Wouldn't it be nicer? And wouldn't the world be a better place if you could see the other side like God does? A really interesting metaphor for his relationship with the Catholic Church and his relationship with the way he's let Father Lantham bring him up. But interesting that we see Matt kind of getting to that point almost immediately after taking down Fisk.
So first of all, yes, very interesting, and I'm really happy to see that he is coming back to that way of thinking. But my God, isn't that a beautiful analogy? I've never thought of it like that, and I'm not religious, I'm not anything like that, but it is a beautiful way to explain the ups and downs of life and people kind of going, why is life terrible? It's because you don't see all of it. You're seeing the dim side, but what you're putting out there is the bright side, and etc. I thought it was a beautiful analogy. And him speaking to Sister Maggie about this, Mother Maggie, whatever way you want to call her, Mother Superior.
Or just mum.
Yes. I'm really enjoying the budding relationships because it's not blossoming yet. It's the seeds are there. It's starting to show sprout. It was just really nice to see that interaction between them.
Yeah, definitely. And whatever we're calling her, he's still calling her Maggie as well. He's not calling her mom. He's not, he's not there yet. And in the same way, he's not there with the Catholic Church either. He's not saying, I'm going back to Mass every week and I'm going back to confessional every other week or anything like that. He's saying, Father Lantham used to give me guidance when I needed it. Maybe you can be there and do that for me in the future, and they have that kind of ready to develop a relationship moment.
Yeah, but then we do get the fantastic scene of Father Lantham's funeral. And I know it sounds terrible to say fantastic. They're closing this chapter in the life of Daredevil, Matt Murdock, really well. It was kind of like, oh my God, they said the name of the show in the show. Where we do get the explanation, or this version of the explanation of why he may call himself the man without fear in some respects. I thought it was really well written, just analogy and of why Matt should live his life by this.
Yeah, it was really nice. I'm glad that we saw Father Lantham's funeral, all that moment with Sister Maggie as well. So yeah, this was really nice. I did, however, think that Father Lantham maybe wasn't beloved by his parishioners as much as we may think, given that it was quite empty.
There's a really weird moment when we were watching the episode. That's exactly what we were talking about. We were saying, that's quite an empty room. It's only 2 aisles of the church. I'm growing up a Catholic. I've seen big funerals in Ireland and the church, like there's people out the doors. And then just at that moment, Matt is standing in front of this church and goes, it's great to see so many people from Hell's Kitchen turning out and filling up the church. I'm like, that's not full. That's not an Irish Catholic funeral. That'd be out the doors, especially since it's been a few days since Father Lantham passed. They've had time to organise it. You'd expect that would be everybody. It's all the characters from the show are there, basically.
And it's a priest, especially when priests die. You get double the attendance. Yeah. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I think, on the left-hand side of the church, we have a lot of members of the clergy, lots of members of other faiths that are there to support it. But it's just one of those moments. If you can't fill up the church when you can't get extras, don't make it in the speech that how many people turned out for a funeral. Because, again, I've seen full churches. It's a big church, yeah, I get it. But you could have gotten either the extras or don't have the line, I think is my point.
Yeah, and it was a good send-off as well, I think, for Father Lantham. As well, we get the send-off of Blake Tower ultimately to the DA with the ringing endorsement of Foggy Nelson publicly outside of the church as well.
Yeah, I really like that moment with Marcy where she says, I'm really looking forward to being married to the DA, and he's like, I think Blake Tower's single.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And then it's all back to Foggy's for some crispy bacon snacks at his family butcher's.
Mm-hmm. And again, they resolve another one of the storylines there. We hear that the parents are going to be going off and leaving New York. The butcher is going to be going to his brother. And if his brother pays back the loan, then there'll be no need for Blake Terra to go after him. So that whole piece, because it looked like entrapment, he's not going to go after the Nelson family. They're all free and clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just before, just taking a step back into the church parking lot. I assume it was the outside of the church. It looked like a parking lot to me, but I wasn't quite sure. The entrance way, if you want to call it that. We do get Karen and Matt sharing a moment. He does express his gratitude for her sharing her the truth with him. And her face visibly drops again, and you see it does take, but you do get a nice moment between these two again. Fast forwarding then, because I thought, oh no, that may have opened up wounds. When we are in the Nelson Butchers, we do see, or the delicatessen, Nelson Butcher delicatessen, it's the ampersand, it's kind of one of those weird ones. It's hipster.
Just old school, not hipster.
Old school is hipster, because hipsters are just taking all the retro stuff.
Under Foggy's brother, it will become hipster because he's got the beard. But this is still his parents' shop, so it's just old.
Okay, right now. But anyway, we do get Karen nicking a blind man's drink. She goes something like, is that straight up whiskey? And he goes, yeah, it is nice. And then she goes, yoink, it's mine now. And then we get essentially a very quick tie-up of the friendship, the law practice, everything in one. And we do get another name drop, which I was quite happy with, about a certain PI in Hell's Kitchen.
Only one of the series, yeah.
Yes, I should say, actually, by the way, that this is obviously the name drop of Jessica Jones, our illustrious, superpowered PI. But we get it as a joke where Murdoch does say that Karen Page will be more reliable, I believe is the term used, than Jessica Jones.
Mm-hmm. And I think what's even more important here is Matt Murdoch is making jokes. We got a smile in the last episode. This time we get him making actual jokes.
Yeah.
What's going on? It's like his life is all sorted out.
Yeah, and it's the Matt we wanted. It's the Matt that we were introduced to in the beginning. And I think that's the key aspect here. They've reset the clock. They've made changes to the Daredevil Netflix universe. People are dead, but they've reset the clock on this. You have the law practice, Avocados of Law, and PI service back together. He lost his spiritual compass, North Star. Now he has a new one. There's a lot going on, but it's kind of the reset clock, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, very much so. And this is what led me to wonder if this is the end of Daredevil, where they asked to write it that this could be the end of the show because everything is set in place and back to kind of where it was 3 seasons ago, that these three are working together in a practice. Of course, this character has gone through many changes over the decades that he's been around, and this moment where they all get back together and everything's happy and they're ready for a new adventure has happened many, many times in the comics, but it felt like there is nothing now to aim towards at the end of this series. It felt like we have all of our main players back where they should be. Thanks very much for watching the 3 seasons of Daredevil. And I hope that's not it. I hope we're going to get a season 4, but it felt like it could end right there.
Yeah, I'm really with you on that.
Yeah, it definitely felt like that. I mean, it is actually a really good end, I think, to season 3. And I think it's a nice kind of full circle, I suppose, if you will, from season 1 to now. But I definitely hope this is season 4. Certainly given the fact that, not only is Matt moving back into his apartment, but we see, a familiar symbol appear in the eyes of Dex. We see, one of Daredevil's great villains being sort of patched back together again from the spine upwards, I suppose, with this elective surgery that is taking place, which was really cool to see.
Yeah.
And we know that you can never keep a good Wilson Fisk locked up. So, or if you do, that he's going to be pulling strings on the outside. So there's plenty of threat there still in this universe that can be exploited for a season 4. So I really hope that there is a positive reception to the showrunner's advances for a season 4.
Definitely. Didn't we even get that little gag from Karen Page where Matt says, as long as Vanessa's safe, Fisk's going to play along because he loves her, and then Karen goes, what if she gets knocked down by a bus tomorrow? It's like, Matt's like, shut up.
Touch wood, touch wood.
Yeah.
No, and I think we should pause at kind of at the end of this now, because we are starting to speak more of the season review and where we want things to go. I'm going to move it over to some notes, if that's okay with you, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yes, I think so. On to the notes for sure.
There's 2 noticeable exclusions from this season.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take one, and Derek, I'll let you take the second.
Okay.
The first for me, we didn't get our cameo. We did not get our Stan Lee cameo in this season.
I searched everywhere for this, and there was no mention at all of a Stan Lee cameo. Yeah, so we didn't see it ourselves, and also all the other people that have been watching the show, nobody else has picked up on one. So
I found one Reddit thread that posits the flashback scene in Fogwell's gym where Maggie comes in. There is a photo of a young man. It's quite blurry. It looks like the writing says Lee, and potentially that's Officer Lee back in the day. And it was just it wasn't focused enough for people to zoom in on or kind of capture.
Yeah.
I went back and looked at that scene. I couldn't see it. So this is a really disturbing element for me. I was like, no. It's kind of like an Easter egg hunt. We watch it throughout the season. You're kind of keeping an eye on what characters doing, but we've been scanning the kind of back walls and things like that. I'm hoping it is found. I'm hoping it's something we just overlooked, in a very public scene, where there was a lot going on. But yeah, it's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah. And I think just obviously having only recently lost Stan Lee, it seems even more important to me that he was in this final episode. I know these episodes came out a month and a bit before Stan Lee passed, of course, but it makes it even more important when you're rummaging through these scenes, kind of going, okay, we're getting onto the last episode. He must be here somewhere. Surely he's in the background of Foggy's family butchers or something, in one of those scenes. Surely he's in there, but he's not, unfortunately. There's no mention of him either.
I was kind of hoping for an employee of the month photo in the hotel.
Yeah, something like that.
Like that's something silly like that. But it just, it never happened. And speaking of never happening, we also had a second no-show for this season.
Well, actually, 2 others. One that we knew wasn't going to happen. We don't have Claire Temple, who started out her career back in season 1 of Daredevil. We know she finished off her storyline in Luke Cage and left the city. I think she is actually back in New York, according to conversations that happened with Colleen Wing and with Misty Knight. We believe that Claire Temple is back in New York somewhere. But she didn't turn up for the show. Understandable. The actress has said that she's done with the Marvel shows. She wants to go back and spend time with her kids. Totally understandable. She's had 11 series or 10 series that she's appeared on, and only for a few episodes in some cases, and having to stay in New York when you've got kids across the other side of the country. Totally understand that you wouldn't want to hang around and do that. That makes a lot of sense. Weirdly, Turk Barrett also not appearing in this season of Daredevil. He's been able to fit himself into every season since the first episode of Daredevil, and hasn't been able to fit into this series. Felt kind of odd for me. I don't know. He felt like he's always had that connection to Daredevil more than any other character. So thought we'd see him in this season.
I actually thought we were going to get him in this episode.
Right.
No lie. I thought that was how Matt was going to find Felix Manning.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turk was going to do a request, I was assuming it was the opening where Turk is doing something bad and Matt comes and knocking. He's like, oh God, not you again, type of kind of joke. It'd be like, yeah, that's fun. Yeah, it was very strange not to see him.
It would have made sense to definitely.
But I suppose that was one of the problems that we saw with season 2 of Daredevil, was over tying it into all the other shows. So maybe that was a focus of the showrunner this time, was not to tie it into the other shows and not to hamper himself with trying to fit in things like the Hatchet Gang and those kind of things, so he could just tell the story he wanted to tell without having to lead towards a Defenders 2 or anything else, just to tell a good Daredevil story. I think that may have been a focus for our showrunner this season.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, another note from me is that we see Vanessa give Wilson Fisk a red rose in his lapel of his jacket. And obviously from the 2003 movie, as well as from the comics, this was a signature of Wilson Fisk to leave a rose at the body of a person that he had killed or that he had put the order on to kill. So it was done for Matt's father in the movie as well. So just a little motif there, coming into play, which is nice and symbolic. I think also what's nicely symbolic in this scene is where we see Fisk seeing himself as that murderous little boy in the mirror, in this moment where Vanessa is preparing him for their wedding, and with this red rose, when he looks back at himself, he sees himself. It's this idea that Vanessa has calmed that murderous little boy down, as we later hear, as you say, Chris, those beautiful words about them both being broken and understanding that they are the pieces that fit together. So a really nice little moment in the wardrobe closet of the Fisks.
Yeah. I was wondering what it was seeing when Vanessa puts that rose on him. Was he still seeing the murderous boy or not? Because we don't actually see the mirror reflection of Fisk.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So I was wondering whether it's just he's accepted the little boy is still inside him, or is that little boy gone now because he has Vanessa? And I think the little boy is gone because he has Vanessa in his life. I think that's what it's trying to say. But it is still interesting, 3 seasons, and for him, 30 years on from this murderous kid, he's still seeing that in the mirror. He's still seeing the murder of his father, having that stain on his soul, And final note, big one, this one, because I didn't notice it. I did go back and check out the comic books that it's based on, though. Daredevil 196 and 199 introduce a character called Lord Darkwind, whose alter ego is Dr. Oyama. This is the character who invented putting adamantium onto bones. So that's exactly how the character of Wolverine was created, for example. In these issues, in Daredevil 196 to 199, Wolverine is on the trail of Lord Darkwind, who kidnaps Bullseye, who's had his back broken, and fuses his bones with adamantium in the spine, just like we see in this episode of Daredevil. And we do hear the other surgeon calling out the fact that this is Dr. Oyama, so obviously connected to the storyline from the comic books, and quite interesting that this is part of Bullseye's character, that he gets the adamantium fused to his bones and comes back even more unbeatable than he was before. Quite cool, huh?
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
If that's it for the notes, guys, I think it's time to get on to our defense and close out the episode. Let's start out with Chris for the end of season 3, the season 3 finale of Daredevil and New Napkin. Do you defend this episode, Chris?
I do defend this episode. I am speaking wholly for just my defense for episode 13. I do feel the last 10 minutes of this episode were very rushed. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of information closed off, thrown at us very quickly. I do feel that potentially I would have preferred the Wilson Fisk, Dex Devil and Daredevil or Man in Black fight scene went on 10 to 5 more minutes. I just felt it was really interesting to see, but again, it also felt rushed. Even the ballroom scene, if the ballroom scene had been extended, it would have been perfect. Even just going as far as seeing Dex take out the FBI guards, stalking through the halls, stomping, I should say, through the halls. So while I do defend this episode in terms of the overall character, the writing was superb. I've called it 2 fantastic scenes or pieces of dialogue that I personally was like, these are beautiful descriptions. I didn't enjoy the pacing, and maybe pacing is the wrong word. I just felt actually for once this could have been extended. If they had given this an extra 10, 15 minutes of an episode, obviously we're never going to really see a Netflix episode go over the 1 hour mark.
Why not?
Why not? I think that's what I feel they should have done. Like, giving this an extended scene where Matt, Karen, Foggy are sitting down and they're talking more about it. But again, that scene even there was it was tight. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining that this episode was sloppy or it was tight writing. I just felt actually you could have elaborated. We could have given the writer a bit more space to expand some of these conversations. The scene between Vanessa, Fisk, and Matt, if you had given that scene just 60 more seconds, I felt it really would have just hit home even more. So, yes, I defend this. Yes, this was a fantastic episode, but for once I'm actually left feeling lacking, not from the writing, not from the direction, but from the time they were given to tell this story in an episode format. In terms of keeping it very close to the 1 hour. I would have happily taken an extra 10, 15 minutes, and the pacing increased to get a more jovial episode finale or season finale. In terms of jovial, by giving me more time with these characters to explore, rather than it feeling somewhat rushed towards the end. Okay. Because the third act is very rushed. So that is, yes, I do defend. That was a winding road to get there, but yes, I do defend this episode. John, do you defend this season finale of Daredevil Season 3, A New Napkin?
I do defend this episode of Daredevil Season 3, A New Napkin. I give this 3.5 chilled out Julies out of 5. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved everything here with Matt, Kingpin, and Poindexter, and with the wedding, all around the wedding. So I include Vanessa in this as well. I just thought that was really good. I loved seeing Poindexter being exposed to the truth, and him bringing his present, his and Julie's present to the Fisk wedding. I thought that was really, really nice. I think that fight in the penthouse apartment was so cool, but wow, I think that wrap up was pretty efficient. It felt a bit more like, a abstract of a scientific article rather than, a TV show. I thought it was very efficient. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed seeing our 3 protagonists together again, committing to working as, Nelson, Murdoch, and Page, the attorneys at law. That was a sweet moment, and a really fitting end, for sure. But yeah, it really just suddenly went into, I don't know what gear. How many gears do Formula One cars have? At least 8. It really just sped to this wrap up. I really hope that this, fantastic wrap up that kind of brings them full circle as this trio of partners again working in law like they started off in the early few episodes of season 1 getting together. I hope that leads to a season 4 ultimately, and doesn't become the period for Daredevil as a Marvel Netflix show. I really thought this was a good final episode, and I definitely do defend episode 13 of Daredevil Season 3, A New Napkin. Derek, do you defend episode 13 of Daredevil?
I do defend this episode, but I think I know what the problem is with this ending. I think it's the confidence is gone. When Marvel Netflix shows began right back in season 1 of Daredevil, there was this confidence about them that said, we've got 4 shows coming and a combined show at the end of them where you're going to see them all together, and we're going to be TV's Avengers are going to be here, and you're going to have all these stories coming out of it and all that kind of stuff. We've been knocked back quite significantly this year as fans of Iron Fist and as fans of Luke Cage. We've had this knockback twice already this year that our shows aren't coming back. And this episode felt like the showrunner was being told, make sure you put a fine point on it just in case it doesn't come back. This felt like what was happening. I'm an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, and I will say it over and over again. I'm a huge fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but almost every season after season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has ended like this, where they go, this could be the end of the show, and we've wrapped everything up. So just in case it is, you've had a goodbye to all your favorite characters, but it could also come back next year, and we've made a plan for just in case it could come back. Here's something that could happen. That's what this felt like. It felt like there was no confidence at all that we will get a season 4. And not that I need that every time. I don't need it. But the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies have that. The Marvel TV shows on Netflix have always had that confidence at the end of their shows. Look at the end of Iron Fist. Look at the end of Luke Cage season 2. They were so confident that they were coming out of the gates with their next season because they've set everything up in place and put all those chess pieces in place. This felt like there's no chess pieces in place. They don't even know what board they're playing, what game they're playing for season 4 at the end of this season. So that just feels like a weird finale episode for the Marvel Netflix shows. And for any Netflix show, to be honest, they all seem to have that kind of confidence about them. But maybe times are changing. Maybe that's all it is. So while I love the episode, and you guys have mentioned all the points why the episode was a great episode, I do think the end just felt, it felt like a closing of times rather than an enjoyable ending with these characters.
Yeah, I can understand that, definitely.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And our episode 200 is really where I'm going to get into that. Because I have some thoughts and feelings about how this has been closed. But again, it's not about this episode, it's about the season as a whole.
Okay, cool. I said we aren't going to have any feedback on the entire season. We'll save that for episode 200. We just have one piece of feedback in episode 12. John, do you want to take that piece?
Yeah, Tina Brown says on the death of Ray Nadeem, Fisk does seem omnipotent in this episode. That's a lot of planning for potential scenarios, and the grand jury tipped it over for me. Goodbye, Agent Nadeem. These Netflix shows are tough on those FBI agents. A great character and very well acted. But I had a feeling he wasn't going to make it, even after getting to the courthouse. I didn't think dramatically it would work to send him to prison. He had to die. Yeah, absolutely, Tina. I think all the while in the courthouse, in the drive over, even at Fogwell's gym, I was just expecting Ray Nadeem to come a cropper. And ultimately, he decides to take that act himself to put him in harm's way with then the arrival of Poindexter at his family home. So yeah, it was certainly a farewell to Ray Nadeem, and again, a really good character in the end, I think. I think to begin with, it was, is he, isn't he? Yeah. Is he, isn't he? Certainly from me. But those moments with him and his wife Seema, and with their child, and just that realization that being pulled into something they didn't want to do by Wilson Fisk, ably abetted by Poindexter, I thought you really felt his struggle and his conflict in some of these last few episodes. So it was really, really good. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, Tina, for that feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. Yeah, there's definitely something really interesting about the way they did this, to have Ray Nadeem own up to his mistakes, own up to all of the things that he's done, stand in front of a court, tell them all everything that's happened, and then to have the kind of rug pulled out from under him to say that all of these people are in the pocket of Wilson Fisk, or are being threatened with death by Wilson Fisk if they don't pardon him. It just does feel like a much more epic ending to his story. And yeah, a tragic ending, really. You're right, he couldn't have gone off to prison. You can't send a character that you all know and you all identify with as an audience. You can't send him off to prison at the end of this kind of season. You have to have a definitive end where he ends off life as a hero.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. I can't add much more than the guys have said, but I agree with you. The omnipotent Fisk in this episode is really interesting. He's the master of strategy. And I think it kind of just continues to show. I do like the idea of Fisk constantly having this 1,000 plans in his head, each one twisting, or him just knowing how certain people react to certain different types of pressure.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for the feedback. As I said, we'll be back with the rest of the feedback on season 3 of Daredevil in our episode 200, which will be coming up very soon. We're not going to be holding it back for weeks or anything like that. It'll be out later on this week, as soon as I get it edited, basically. Thanks so much for joining us for the entire season of Daredevil. Really enjoyed talking about this epic season 3 of the show. Hopefully we're going to get a season 4, and we'll talk a lot more about it on the next episode. Thanks so much for joining us, fellow Defenders, and keep coming back.
Yes, thank you so much. You will hear my dulcet tones very soon.
Yes, thank you so much, fellow Defenders, for listening. It has been a pleasure discussing Daredevil Season 3 with you. I've got the engine running to take Julie for a ride. I hope she hasn't melted by the time I get back to that car. But once I've driven her around the block and put her back in the freezer for good keeping, we will be back to speak about Daredevil, the full season, Season 3, with you soon. Bye.
where we're talking about Daredevil 313 and New Napkin, the finale of season 3 of Daredevil.
We're so shocked that we're near the finale. Something fell over.
I just kicked over my phone, yes. Matt doesn't reel him back up like Matman. Matman?
Well, I think that's a good new...
Matman.
I'm not wearing hockey pants.
Hockey pants? Still hockey pants?
Absolutely. She had the look about her that suggested she'd been on one too many Sunday drives when she was with Dex in the car. It was like, just get me out of here. I'm bored. Stiff. I did like the look on her eyes. It was kind of comedically wide-eyed, but I suppose it would be really... Okay. Shall I stop that again? That sounded a bit
Probably
tough.
best.
Yeah. Your bitch was to kill beloved animals. And obviously we see the other police officers coming in, taking off the Max. That completely put me off, Chris, because I was
Sorry, yeah. I was like, I'm doing it away from that still was really far away.
But once I've driven her...
What was that?
What?
Oh, it might be on a delay.
I think Chris is drinking giggle water. Yeah, it's on a very major delay, so all we got was out of nowhere there. Finish off, because...
Bye.
Oh, that's hilarious. Sorry. I think you're there, Chris.
Yeah, are you there, Chris?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Just now.
Yeah.
But all we've had for the last 2 minutes is just the occasional, like, pop of... So John's been trying to say his final sentence and he just gets a in his ears. That's it.
Sorry. Yes, I'm here. I'm listening.
Oh, very good.